All right, we're back. We're live. We want to thank everybody who's been tuning in all these weeks because it's been so popular now. We've added this as a playlist on my YouTube channel. I haven't been on YouTube in a few years regularly, but the demand was so high, you can now go to Scott Abel Coaching on YouTube and find the Coach and Andy show. So you'll find several previous episodes where I didn't really label the topics because we were live. We were waiting the topics to come from you guys, so you'll see descriptions in there. But on this show, we talk about everything. We talk about diet. We talk about training. We talk about how to stay lean all year long. We talk about walking the talk, not just talking the talk, and how to do that. So we talk about coaching mindset. We talk about coaching bodies. We talk about healthy diet strategies versus nonsense. We talk about industry gimmicks and all the rest of it. I've been in this industry, folks, 4 decades as an expert. 4 decades producing champions, writing for magazines, writing books. Not a whole lot gets by me. Unfortunately, a lot gets by the consumer. So we're here to sort of turn things that are upside down right side up. And I'm just sort of giving you an intro if you find us on YouTube, now that we're brand new on YouTube. But you can always stay tuned to Facebook Live and find us, for now, every Thursday around this time, because we are shooting videos before we go live. Exercise videos for upcoming projects. So first we just finished Andy's Awesome Abs training.
It is going to be awesome.
So show them what we mean by Andy's Awesome Abs. Just roll that up a little bit. All right, there. Well, that's what we're talking about, folks. So put that down, damn it. Show off. All right, so we just finished shooting that. Andy's Awesome Abs training circuits. How to look like that all year long. And of course, we're now started into the Hard Gainer Solution, which is a book of mine, and we're shooting all the exercise demos for all 80 of those workouts. So we're having a good time, and then we decide to go live after, tell some things that have come up during the week, or some things we've thought about and remembered, those kind of things. How are we doing for an audience?
It's coming.
It's coming. Are we double digits yet?
Oh yeah, long time ago.
Okay, double digits. So we thank you for tuning in. Again, it's the Coach and Andy Show on YouTube or here Facebook Live. Feel free to share, folks. You're going to see some good stuff and you're going to hear some great stuff. So what's that old saying? Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. We're going to turn that upside down for you too and tell you some hard industry principles. So you know, methods are many, principles are few, but you can't have a method that violates the principles. So that's what we're here to explain to you week to week. And it's funny, I'm doing all the talking, but only for a minute. We have a case of that we can share with people.
Oh, yeah.
So now that Andy's getting with me and getting out there, he's been like sort of an industry's best kept secret, unless you've seen him on covers of magazines. He's getting a following now from our time online, and as goes with that is what I call growing pains.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you can say that for sure.
So on his Instagram last week, he posted one of his.
Looks like we've got a sound problem.
Uh-oh. Are people hearing us? Just thumbs up, folks, if you can hear us or not hear us, or type in. Maybe it's just one person.
Yeah, Susie said there was no sound, so.
Is there anybody else? Everybody?
Deborah, let us know if you can hear us. We're good.
We're good. Okay, so that's Susie. Sorry that you're having trouble, but everyone else seems to be good. And again, these things happen when you're live, so good to know, though. Try to adjust your own sound, Susie, where you're at. But let's get to it. So Andy's starting to get a bigger and bigger following, and with that comes internet trolls. With that comes people who are ill-informed, misinformed, or just plain ignorant of the actual principles. So Andy was posting one of his diet meals online, which I did last week as well, one of Andy's diet meals. And what was it, potatoes it had in it, or rice?
The picture I posted on Instagram was actually just a big pot of brown rice that I made, and then I was just talking about how carbs are, you know, a mainstay in my diet. They're, you know, the biggest portion of my diet.
And I should pause right there because you'll see, folks, when this posts that the title of this, one of the titles of this, is Carbs Are Crucial. So you're not going to hear about any low carb nonsense on this live version or anything to do with any of my people. So carbs are crucial. Andy follows the cycle diet year round, which is regular underfeeding with regular overfeeding, calorie spikes, which of course we enjoy anything and everything from chicken wings to pizza to beer to ice cream to carrot cake, whatever.
Whatever you feel like, yeah.
So Andy posts one of his diet meals on Instagram, and people are trying to learn, and of course you get a troll every so often, and the guy comes on and starts lecturing Andy about how he can't have carbs in his diet. And of course, since Andy posts pictures of his physique, which is cover model physique year long, they can't attack his physique. They can't attack how he looks. So they have to go into the level of nonsense and warning Andy about how brown rice, etc., is going to lead to cancer and inflammation and diabetes and all these other things. You're pretty much about as misinformed as you can get. Tell him, man.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start, how wrong that is on so many levels. And for him to actually mention cancer, too, I mean, he was a keto dieter, so I mean, what's the best way to create an acidic environment? Be in ketosis, which...
Well, not, and I kind of stay away from acid and alkaline,
yeah,
but
I mean, at the same time, there was no logic in his post.
No, it's just, because the ironic thing, folks, out there is that the research is pretty definitive that it's meat eating, in particularly red meat, that causes the most inflammation and the highest cancer risks. I mean, the research is pretty adamant about that, so that was kind of funny. Usually they would come on and maybe attack your physique and this and that. And the funny thing about people who diet that way is it's not sustainable.
No.
So we've talked in my podcast. You can go to my podcast at Smarter Sculpted Physique, and we've talked there several times about the National Weight Control Registry, which is a registry that monitors people that have taken off a lot of weight and kept it off for a specific amount of time over the long term. And what they found and what they've written and what they keep saying that no one wants to listen to, less than 1% of the thousands and thousands of people that they've studied, less than 1% dieted and kept the weight off with a low-carb diet. Can we get that through our heads, folks? I mean, when does the fitness industry stop thinking it knows more than the medical industry?
Yeah, I don't know. Then there's way too many trainers that are getting out of their scope of expertise too, like these online gurus that are giving out nutrition advice.
Gimmick.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we interrupt this program for me to come closer to the camera. Want to pick that up, cameraman? I'm just going to remove this for you for a second. Okay, folks. So, speaking of research and studies, this book is called The Modern Nutrition in Health and Disease. Is that good enough?
Yeah, it's coming through, yeah.
Okay, Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease. Look at this, folks. Okay? 3,000 pages. I've read this cover to cover twice because that's the kind of hairpin I am. I've read this. You can see all my notations and stuff. When I say I know research, I know research. So let's stop with people aggrandizing things like keto diets and low-carb nonsense. If you want something sustainable, all right, you have to work in a diet strategy that, one, serves the body, and two, is sustainable, all right? Because one of the things you get all the time is people who don't make the connection. They're trying to avoid starches, and then they're writing me about their mindless overeating or their binging. Well, make the connection. What we know, for instance, people also talk all the time, and I'll be talking about this in an upcoming Sunday breakfast with the coach, but people talk all the time about the size of the meals they can have when they eat low carbs.
Yeah.
Well, that's because there's no satiation there.
Yeah.
And instead of talking about volume of food, talk about food that reaches the hypothalamic axis that tells you when you're full or full enough to stop eating. When you remove starches, all you're going to do is have more volume in your stomach but no satiation. So no wonder your mind's saying, I need more food, I need more food, I need more food. The most satiating foods tend to be starches. So if you want to be on a diet where you can look like that year-round, then you're going to have carbs in it, period. You know, send me someone who's been a decade, right?
Yeah.
Your first cover was 2006?
Yep. Yeah,
so
over a decade.
yeah, over a decade being in cover model shape. Send me someone else who's been over a decade eating a keto diet who can prove it.
Yeah.
And I'll eat every page in the chapter of that book that speaks to the importance of satiety and a satiating element of a diet that keeps you healthily regulated between what we call tolerable hunger and satiation versus intolerable hunger. Any questions coming in there yet?
There was one about the necessary energy requirements for the brain and heart function.
And that has to do with sugar, I would think, in terms of carbohydrate.
Yeah.
There's what we call neuropeptide Y levels, and you need a certain amount of that to get past what's called the blood-brain barrier in order to preserve brain function, optimal brain function. When you train competitors, as long as I have, and I've left that world now, but you see a lot of competitors before contests getting what I call competitor ADHD and ADD.
Yeah.
They're walking into rooms forgetting why they were there. I had one competitor write me who was going to the grocery store several times a day and forgetting why she was there each and every time. Stuff like this, and they're all following a low-carb diet. So before we glorify something, what's the common Abel phrase? What is this thing doing for my life? What is this thing doing to my life? Mm-hmm. All right, and let's try to have an honest discussion about that, because there's a lot of dishonest discussions going on about that. So to get that troll coming trying to attack Andy, you couldn't attack him the way he looks. You couldn't attack him for a healthy, all-rounded diet. So he had to warn all your followers that if they eat with carbs in the diet like you suggest, that they're going to increase inflammation, risk diabetes, and maybe get cancer, which is absolutely ridiculous. So you've been following this now, what, 13 years?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
All right. So that's just, folks, carbs are key. Carbs are crucial. You have to understand that. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I've never fallen off the wagon or anything either. Like, I've been following that, many times I've heard a keto dieter tell me that, it worked really great for me, but I couldn't stick to it. How many times I've heard that? So,
yeah, you and me both. Yeah, it worked really great while I was on it, and I get that about Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
I get that about Jenny.
So why
I get
are you
that
still
about
on it?
Yeah, if it works so great, then it would be sustainable.
Yeah.
It worked great till I fell off because I was just too hungry. Well, why do you think you were just too hungry? Because it wasn't the right diet. Diet has to be sustainable, has to serve the body. So I don't know why people in North America have this fundamental attitude that it doesn't work unless you're starving. And if you're starving, it's working, but you can't maintain the starving, so, it really works, I just can't stay on it. That's just circular logic that makes no sense. So remember the satiating element of starch carbs in your diet, not to mention the health-promoting elements of it as well, right?
Absolutely,
So, if you could live on just fish and protein, then we never would have discovered scurvy way back when. When if people are historical studies of nutrition like I am, you go way back when, where the word limey came from to describe people from Britain was because how they learned to solve scurvy was that certain fruits, especially citrus fruits, prevented scurvy from developing, which was all about, of course, the vitamin C, etc. So there they were trying to travel the Atlantic and cross the Atlantic, and they could have eaten all the fish in the world and whatever livestock they had, but they still got a disease that was only prevented by including fresh fruits. So there's all those elements as well. So it's too bad people are so ill-informed and misinformed out there, but such is the way it is. But we're here to set it straight. You don't look like Andy looks year-long without having starch carbs in your diet. Period. Exclamation point. End of argument. Bring on the trolls. Because for every argument you can bring, I can bring 10. I've been doing this 4+ decades. You don't have this kind of staying power if you don't know what you're talking about. So, a little braggacio on my part, but the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't working, Andy still wouldn't be with me. So that's an important factor.
All the forbidden stuff: oats, potatoes, rice, fruit right before bed too. I mean, that's
shocking.
It's
shocking.
a big no-no.
It's shocking. How can you do that? Yeah.
Andy, can you describe what tolerable hunger feels like for you, and how often do you notice it?
I actually I embrace it now. Like really enjoy it. It's certainly not a problem for me. Like I actually enjoy.
Well, what's it feel like? They're asking what's it.
It's not starving. Like I mean, I think some people definitely don't have, you know, they're not as in tune with their bodies, so they can't tell the difference between, you know, hunger and starvation, right? I mean,
or they think hunger's unnatural.
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah.
hungry. I'm really hungry. Well, so's every mammal on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing to feel on a diet. Not starving, but you know, just always like you could eat more, right? You should always feel like, oh man, I could eat more than this, but you know, you feel good enough to carry on with your day. You're not obsessed with food. I mean, that's when you start noticing, you know, maybe you should.
That's intolerable hunger.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So.
Then there's a lot of nuances to that argument because there's a lot of people with food issues who are what we call hypersensitive to hunger cues, which they create in their own mind because they're so focused on food that they actually have tolerable hunger. They just can't deal with it. But there's two jokes that kind of remind me of this reference to what tolerable hunger feels like. One came from an old buddy of mine a long time ago who said, never ask a man if he can eat or if he wants to have sex. It's just assume the answer is always yes.
Yeah.
So tolerable hunger, yeah, you could eat. You're ready for your next meal even though you just ate your last meal. You just have the discipline to wait for when the refeeds are really going to matter, okay?
Yeah.
So that's one important thing. And then another, when I first introduced the cycle diet, one of the jokes I always made about the diet days, the hunger days, is like tolerable hunger being a lot like having pretty average sex. In other words, it's not like you're not getting any, but it's not rocking your world either.
Yeah.
And then you wait for the refeed days in order to rock your world taste bud-wise. And of course, you and I, we both enjoy our Sunday oral orgasms with whatever food of our choice we have. And I meant to start with the carbs are crucial argument. I meant to start with being out with Andy this Sunday. This boy can eat. One of the benefits of BMR things that we track that indicate metabolic optimization even before proper feeding and training and to even optimize it more is the BMR factors. Yep. So height, he's got it in spades. Gender tends to favor males. He's got that. Height, gender, muscle mass, he's got that too. Age, he's still young. So he's got all the signs of being hypermetabolic, whereas my metabolism's in metabolic downturn. So we headed over to Boston Pizza where we live, and Andy ordered, what'd you order?
I had New York strip loin, fries, and I think there was garlic toast that came with that.
He had that, he had a beer, and he finished half of my pizza that I ordered. And then after that I had to laugh because in the strip mall where Boston Pizza is, there's a big grocery store. So Andy said, let's just go over there so I can take something home. In other words, a full meal and half of my pizza was a snack for this lad on a refeed day. We go over to the Safeway grocery store, free plug for Safeway, and Andy buys a half Dagwood sandwich. I don't know if you've ever seen a Dagwood sandwich, folks, but it's about the size of this yoga block when it's made. It's meant to be cut into several pieces for a party. Well, Andy bought a half-size one and got home and polished that one off.
And the gingerbread cream cheese cookies, too.
Gingerbread cream cheese filled cookies. So if you want to talk about inflammation and diabetes and cancer risk, boy, are you on the wrong channel if you're so afraid of healthy food, then you don't want to try the cycle diet. For more information, the cycle.diet, that's thecycle.diet, not .coms, just thecycle.diet. So carbs are crucial. Carbs are key. You're going to hear that same harmony and symphony from us anytime you tune in to talk about diet strategies and diets. We're not going to be changing that channel. So, yeah, go ahead, question.
What are your good carbs and your bad carbs, or your bad carbs for leaning out?
Well, here's the thing. I don't like words like good and bad, right and wrong. It plays with people's minds. And here's the thing. There's what we call cosmetically friendly foods and foods that aren't so cosmetically friendly.
Yeah.
So if I was peaking someone for a contest or Andy for a photo shoot, the first things we would get rid of are any flour-based products, things like that. We might get rid of brown rice and replace it with potatoes. Of those starches, oatmeal, sweet potatoes, and potatoes are probably the most cosmetically friendly.
I would say so, yeah. I've always eaten those for any photo shoot.
Yeah. But let's get serious, folks, with the research and the people touting these crazy diets who say, a troll who writes in on Andy's comment board and says you shouldn't be telling people to eat brown rice because it's going to lead to inflammation, diabetes, and possibly cancer. This is the ridiculousness, folks, of people who don't have a knowledge background, an educational background. Because let's get real. Do we really have to explain to you the difference between a baked potato baked in its natural state versus French fries? Do we really have to tell you we're not talking about the same foods just because they both come from the same source? Do we really have to tell you that a baked potato and ranch potato chips aren't the same thing? So when people talk about processed refined carbs leading to inflammation and cancer risk and things like that, they're talking about heavily processed refined carbohydrates. They're not talking about their healthy whole food versions, okay? So that's ridiculous. If you want to talk about those, what are those strips that you peel and eat? What are they called? You're the candy man. I don't know what they call that, but fruit roll-ups.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to have a fruit roll-up and then say, I ate fruit roll-ups and gained 5 pounds and my eyesight's bad, and then compare that with eating an apple a day. This is the kind of twisted logic that goes on for tribal followers of things like keto and other nonsense. So let's just stop the insanity, folks. Healthy whole foods are the way to go. That book, Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease, spells that out in all kinds of ways. Chapters on carbs, chapters on vitamins, chapters on minerals, chapters on fruits, chapters on vegetables. Like I said, 3,000 pages, and I read that book twice to be a responsible expert in the industry. So I'm trying to give you pearls here, folks. If you make rocks out of them, that's up to you. Any other question there?
Yeah, there's something intriguing here. If each meal in a meal plan should have a protein-sparing nutrient, what are some factors in saying this meal's okay with just a fat as the protein-sparing nutrient?
That can be okay. It can be okay. It depends on how long that goes on for. If you're doing that for every meal of every day, lacking starch, what I said, you're going to disrupt the satiety center of the brain, and you're not going to get that satiation effect. So for one meal, that might be fine. My last intake of food, I wouldn't call it a meal, before I go to bed every night, and immediately before I go to bed, like the last thing I do before I go to bed, is just cottage cheese, no carbs or anything like that. And that's just to affect the neurotransmitters in my brain so that I'll sleep well. So there's those other elements of nutrition as well that no one talks about, the neurotransmitters, which, by the way, just happen to be lined all through the gut and connect to the brain. And those neurotransmitters are all about feel-good neurotransmitters. So the less starch you have overall in your diet, then the more antsy you're going to tend to be, even though a lot of people will try to argue against that. Let's see how sustainable they are 6-7 months down the road. So unless there's any other questions on that, we'll get to some other things we'd like to get to. Any questions, comments?
Lots of comments. There's a couple of things we might get to at the end.
Okay, so we got some thumbs up, some hearts.
Lots of hearts.
All right, well, the hearts are for Andy. So, all right, time for our guy candy portion of the show. So, Andy, you just want to lose the shirt there because we want to talk to them. We want to talk to you, show you a couple exercise demos we have in mind. But it's funny, we've been shooting, like I said, we've been shooting a lot of exercise demos for my Hard Gainer solution because we're going to turn that from a book into a course. So we're right in the middle of shooting all those exercises. And certain things came up. So we want to remind you certain ways of a smarter sculpted physique, what I call mass with class. A lot of it is the mind-muscle connection. So I'm speaking to the people here who want to build a physique. Remember, the weights don't work the muscles work the weights. That's number one. Now, in chest training in particular, one thing we were doing today in our filming is the mistake most people make, especially guys, is they think of building the chest as something that takes place from the outside in.
Yep.
So they do a lot of bench presses, even though they're only affecting that tiny area right there, because they think they build the chest from the outside in. Wrong. If you really want to build your chest, you build it from the cleavage out, okay? And you work from there out. So you have to understand things like ranges and planes of motion. You have to understand things like peak contraction, all those kind of things. And we'll show you a couple of variations of that. But we really wanted to point that out because you see so many exercises in the gym butchered by a lack of mind-muscle connection because people aren't training the muscle, they're training the motion. right? They're training the dictates of what they think the exercise should be, right? Any comments on that before we move on?
Yeah, too much heavy, flat work in general, like usually flat barbell bench press. I mean, everyone thinks that's the King Kong of chest exercises, but I mean, for development purposes,
And tell them how often you've bench pressed over the last decade.
I don't even remember the last time I did. I do remember I didn't really feel it a whole lot. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't get much out of it, so that's why I haven't done it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really about feel, right?
Yeah, and most people don't come to that conclusion until far too late, so they end up experiencing either frustration or injury or both. So
Yeah.
we're here to teach you how to build, and the reason I chose bodybuilding over strength stuff or the other stuff is it, to my mind, requires a lot more sophistication to build a physique that's sculpted, balanced, and aesthetically pleasing. So sure, there's a lot of people out there who are going to love the mass monsters and worship that, but I prefer the kind of aesthetics where anyone who's going to see Andy walking on a beach is going to recognize the aestheticness of that, the sort of artistic form. They're going to look at him and go, wow. You know, that's that wow factor, whereas some people can take or leave the mass monster kind of side of it. So for me, the knowledge that it took to become a master of physique sculpting and physique transformation is what keeps me in this game. And when I can see a work of sculpted art like this at the end, then I know my expertise is relevant in that it matters. So you must have some kind of comment on that in terms of training for balance versus...
Yeah, it's really all about feel, how well you can feel every exercise. Too many people just, you know, they're counting reps, they're counting sets, you know, it has nothing to do with, you know, experiencing the workout. They're just kind of in there mindlessly.
Their tempo training.
Yeah, they're just throwing weights around and you know, there's no feel to it. They never feel the muscle work.
The key innervation tenet is that it's not that the muscles work the weights; it's that the weights work them. It's not that.
Absolutely.
It's not that the weights work the muscles; the muscles work the weights.
They're
so
tools.
It says that back.
In the toolbox.
And the weights are just tools, yes, or any other implement that you may be using, right? So that's important. Now, I want to show you a couple easy demos to demonstrate that. We'll start with back, even though we're talking about chest, just because we had it already set up. Someone in the gym was talking about how much they miss the lat pullover machine. They're seldom made anymore, and they don't have them in very many gyms. Very effective movement. Been a favorite of many physique stars over the decades. And you know, my response was, well, you can create your own lat pullover movement. And people were like, well, how the hell can you do that? So, well, again, if you understand how the body works and you understand the ABCs of the body, the ground, gravity, and the body itself, then you can create things. And if you have something like a dual axis functional trainer, then you can create. So Andy, we're going to show you two variations of an actual lat pullover that are extremely efficient, and you'll be, of course, with Andy being as sculpted as he is, you'll be able to see visual evidence of that. So here's the lat pullover. We set up the bar. Andy's going to get behind it, and then he's going to walk it in front. Boy, it's too bad we can't shoot him from the back here, cameraman. So he's going to use a straight arm. He's going to reach back. I'm going to get out of the way here. Gets his grip set. He reaches back. Boom. Brings it all the way down. And you'll see the lats popping out at the top. I mean, it doesn't get much better form than that. Excellent. Perfect, because he comes back past parallel, so there's no strain on the shoulders because he's not coming too far back. And he gets all the way down. Look at the lats, right from the insertion point and the origin point. Sweeping up. Good. Good stuff, buddy. So that's a homemade lat pull down variation that's probably better than the actual machine. I think you're the one that said that, didn't you?
Yeah, I feel that really good. I mean, I haven't seen a machine in a while, but yeah, that felt incredible.
So you can go do that at the gym because we have a functional trainer at the
definitely.
gym. So there you go. If you understand the way the body works, you can have some fun creating very, very efficient exercises that follow the dictates of exercise physiology and biomechanics. So that's a very important thing. Any questions?
Can you do that one standing?
No, because you have to reach behind. But you can do it lying. So you just fed into our next variation. We're going to take these off. And Andy's never actually done this before. you can't do it standing because it would defeat the purpose. You would have to start way up here, reach way back. You would get way too much spinal compressive forces to even make that relevant, and it would create a lack of balance. So we're just going to put the handles back on. There you go, sir.
Actually, that's a. I see a lot when people try dumbbell pullovers off a bench, and they end up using their triceps more than they're not pulling with their back. They end up they're basically just doing a tricep extension.
Yeah, and this one is actually going to be a straight arm pullover, because you can do straight arm or bent arm, but you can't do both. Because what Andy's saying is, if you're trying to do a cross bench dumbbell pullover, as you're pulling up, you straighten your arms, which 99% of people do. All you've done now is create a tricep exercise, because you've gone and extended the elbow. You've gone past. So now you're getting two inefficient moves instead of one very efficient one.
Absolutely.
So we're going to leave this maybe at down a little lower. We got them at 3s. I think that'd be about right for you. So you're going to lay on your back, and you're going to wiggle till you can get these handles, and then you're going to slide forward. I'll hand you one, or actually I'll hand you both of them. What the hell? I don't know if that would be too heavy, but slide yourself forward. I like this one too, folks. I used to do this a lot. And then with a straight arm, he's just going to come all the way to the hips. Go ahead. Is that too heavy? Good?
Nope.
Can you get back here, cameraman, and shoot the chest as well before he runs out of gas? So look again, folks. I'm just going to get down here with Andy. Look at the lats from the insertion to the origin. Look at that. And you can see the striations starting to dance. But get over his chest there, cameraman, and you'll see what a two-for movement this is for chest and back. Look at that. Watch the striations dance. Bam. And I hope the camera's getting this, because that's just brilliant. Excellent. All right, let her go. Oh, missed you. All right. So that's a straight arm, lying version of a pullover. Again, you can have fun till your daddy takes the T-bird away. If you know what you're doing and how the body works, what'd that feel like?
Oh, that was great.
Because it looked awesome.
Yeah. No strain on the joints either. Like that was so smooth. That was definitely gonna have to throw that in at some point.
Those are two excellent, what we call finishers. If you're working back, or you're near the end of a whole body workout or something, and you want to do a high rep pumping cadence for the back. I mean, folks, you can see that with your own eyes. You saw the chest and the back there working in unison as antagonists. You don't get that very often. And tell me that movement didn't look even better than the dumbbell variation you see at the gym.
No.
And feels better, right?
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. You could feel everything working.
Awesome.
Scott, what's better for a person with rotator cuff issues, lying or sitting?
For this movement, I'd say you'd have to feel it out. But if you have rotator cuff issues, you should go to my YouTube channel and check out my rotator cuff internal and external rotation. That should be part of your prehab, what we call prehab, before every single workout. Even if you're working legs, at the end of that workout, I mean, you see me in the gym every day. How do I finish every day?
Rotator cuff.
Rotator cuff, rotator cuff, rotator cuff. If you're over 50, this is a necessary, I wouldn't even call it an evil, it's a necessary benefit to keep the joints healthy and protected. So that's just something to keep in mind. I would try both variations if you have rotator cuff issues, but I'm guessing the lying variation will likely feel easier or better on your shoulders. Not easier in terms of function, but better on your shoulders. So, all right. So we're going to show you now something we were playing with is a low incline cable fly. So you've seen machine cables, you've seen dumbbell cables. Well, we get a lot of nuance when we use cables because the cables allow for the eccentric phase to produce a lot more tension through the muscle. So do you remember what we were doing there, Andy? We're going to go over here.
While you're over there, Scott, could you tell us the brand of the machine you're using, please?
What is the brand? Paramount. This is a Paramount dual access functional trainer. I don't think it matters what brand you get, but if you're going to look for something like this, folks, make sure you get the commercial versions. Don't get the home gym versions because they're built for people with little babies could lift the weight. I mean, the stacks, the weight stacks that these come with, if you get the home versions, are pretty insulting to what they think people are not capable of. So you're going to have to get the commercial gym variations, trust me, because when you do make progress, you're going to need the heavier weight stacks. So let me just finish this off for you. Exercise bar. So I think we went to 7, didn't we? Can't remember.
I believe so, yeah.
And then up 1, and then up 1. And you see, folks, you get to know your way around this machine easy. Look how we varied it. We went from up high, down low, nice and wide. I mean, this machine is versatile, right? It's like having a home gym. It's like having a gym in your home gym without all the necessary space, space eating up all your space and weights and things like that, just like the selectorized dumbbells. So here's a low incline fly, and we're going to, once Andy starts, we're going to get in close and show you. Again, variation. That's how muscles are affected for recruitment. Not about how much you lift, how you lift it. Andy's an artist. He's in the gym to sculpt. He's in the gym to use the weights, not be used by the weights. So come on in, cameraman. We're just going to, and remember what I said. This is why I started saying it. We're building the chest. We're thinking of building the chest from the inside out, not from the outside in. And notice his whole pec plate, right from the bottom near the sternum, right to the top of the clavicle, involved. And look at the striations in the cleavage at the very top. Just hold the top on the next rep. Look at that. Look at those striations there on the sides. Good. Stretch them out. Good. So you're not going to get that kind of peak contraction with dumbbells, and you're certainly not going to get it by trying to train heavy and impress everybody. So if you're still going to the gym to train your ego, you've come to the right channel, because you need to learn a few things, all right? The gym should be an ego-free zone, all right? Go to the gym and train your body, for crying out loud. Tell them about that one, Andy.
Yeah, anything on the free motion is just so smooth and fluent. You definitely can't use your ego and do it properly, because I mean, it'll either you'll break the tension somewhere in the cable, right? You just won't be able to do the exercise anyway. So it's definitely become one of my favorites since I started using it here at your place.
So yeah, there's some options for you folks, and that's just us playing around. That's us trying to give you a little bit of education about what people out there think is knowledge. People trolling on social media sites who have a lot to say. It's ironic usually that people with the most to say the least, but that's the nature of the beast in social media. Yeah, question. It's now time for Q&As, folks. We don't have anything else ready for you today, so fire when ready, and then we'll sign out.
Can the incline fly be done from the fit ball? Would that limit something?
Yeah, sure, it can be done from the fit ball. Why not? It would probably be a little bit more difficult to execute, but sure. I mean, I prefer the stabilization so that the muscles can be more efficiently overloaded. But if that's your only option, it wouldn't technically be an incline, because you don't have the choice of the angle. You would have to position your body and then keep it in that position, which would be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So.
What about electrical stimulation for lagging muscles?
No, that's silliness. Yeah. No, Dr. Ho is making a lot of money. But
I think people just like it because it dances around basically. The muscle belly contracts.
My muscle twitch. But
it's not doing something, right?
It's not voluntary. Folks, what I mean, and people used to try to explain this in ways that confounded the consumer, really. There's what we call MVNA. Maximum voluntary neural activation. And what the key word there is voluntary. In other words, your body knows when you're making the effort to stimulate a muscle and when it's being artificially stimulated. Your body actually recognizes the difference, and therefore that will affect fiber recruitment and the things that happen to make a muscle grow, like protein synthesis, etc. So might be applicable in certain rehab scenarios. I'm not an expert in that area, so I wouldn't begin to comment. But no, not for like bringing up weak body parts or things like that. It's just silly.
Hey Andy, what's your name on Instagram?
Real Andy Sinclair.
Spell it out for him, bud.
RealAndySinclair. So
that's real Andy Sinclair on Instagram. Andy posts pictures of lots of stuff. his
cheat meals, diet meals,
yeah,
gym pictures, whatever.
day in the life.
Yeah, my dog Bob, whatever, just
Yeah.
everything.
Bob the dog. So Bob the friendly dog. So that's some stuff, folks. And again, on any of the Coach and Andy shows, if you you know we're on every Thursday. If you want to have questions ready to go, it's more for you guys than it is for us. We'll start every week while we're waiting for an audience to lecture about something interesting that's come across in the last little while. But other than that, we're here to serve you, so you let us know. And again, remind people, if you want to share these, you found some valuable info, you can share the Facebook Live, but you can also now find past episodes of the Coach and Andy Show on my YouTube channel. It's got Abel Coaching as well, and we'll be posting this one forthwith.
What about best chest builders for the inside out you speak about?
Well, we were talking about best for hard gainer solution, right? You take it.
Basically, any fly movement, dumbbell movements, anything where you're bringing your hands close together. That's what's going to get that cleavage area. Build it from the inside out. Heavy barbell pressing. I mean, it's more of the, it's good to throw in a program if you're maybe just starting out to get your more neural adaptation. I would think like 5 sets of 5.
Yeah, youngsters, whatever.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, as far as sculpting, like the flat barbell bench press will never be a sculpting exercise. Stuff like low incline, dumbbell flies, cable flies, presses, anything where you're,
Yeah, I like what you said there, because it talks about the functionality of the pec muscles,
Yeah.
which is to push away from the body and draw the arms toward the body.
Yeah.
So any exercise that do either of those things or both together, which is why we prefer dumbbells, because you can do both of those in one movement.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense as well.
Yeah.
So
What's the benefit of externally rotating the dumbbells when doing the incline fly?
I'm not sure I'm following. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Externally, I don't know. Is someone like turning them once they get there? Is this motion what you're talking about? Person that wrote. Is that what you're talking about? Someone doing that while they're?
Yeah, I've seen some people do some.
I don't know
some
what that.
weird rotate,
Yeah.
like when they.
Actually, that would actually negate fiber recruitment rather than add to it. You don't want to change
Yeah.
grip variations in the middle of a rep execution, because you're going to confuse fiber recruitment.
Yeah.
You're on the right track, Scott.
Yeah. So no. Okay. If that's what you meant, then no. You keep the dumbbells locked in the start and finish position.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I'm a big Arnold fan, the Arnold press is a mistake.
Yeah.
All right, that's another thing that you should not be doing. The Arnold press is a misnomer of misapplied, principles. So there's another thing to keep in mind there. That's a little gem for you as well. What else we got, cameraman?
What do we got here? How about incline flies from the knees on the ground? Is it too much on the lower back?
I don't know how you can do incline flies from the knees.
I don't. Cable crossovers, maybe. I don't
Do you
know.
mean cable crossovers? Person asking that question. Incline flies is what we're demonstrating here, so I don't know how you're going to do that from your knees without a bench and support. So that doesn't. Not following.
If they're talking cable crossovers from the knees.
Cable
no,
crossovers
I
from the
don't think
knees we
there's
like.
any- yeah. I don't think there's any back strain. I
No.
certainly don't feel
There
any.
shouldn't be if
No.
it's done right.
Andy, what's your favorite go-to bicep exercise?
Probably dumbbell preacher curls. Those are my favorites.
Really? Eh?
Yeah.
It's funny because I saw Andy in the gym the other day doing an Abel version of alternate dumbbell curls, and I
like those too.
did a double take because that was impressive. I looked at him, holy crap! Like he looked really good because he's got long muscle bellies, right? Like stand sideways. He's got very long muscle bellies everywhere, all over his body, but especially biceps. So when he's just sit in that position that you were doing them, we don't have to angle. Don't worry about the bench angle. Just sit. So well, face the camera.
Okay.
So he was doing like the Abel version, which is less like no pronation and supination, just starting, and he had the weight in his hands, and once he got a pump going, I had to look twice. It was pretty damn impressive because of those long muscle bellies, and they got pumped up. So I thought he was going to say alternate dumbbell, but there you go. Everyone has their a muscle that what we call innervates easily. It has low excitation thresholds, in various planes and ranges of motion, and it takes a lot of experience to find what that exercise is for yourself. And that's it. All right, folks, well, we've given you about an hour of our time, so we're going to wrap this up. And again, every Thursday, the Coach and Andy Show. You know, get your questions ready if you can make it. Share these if you're seeing them after the fact, and you think someone can benefit from it. And again, we'll see you on the next episode. Any parting words?
Stay tuned. Yeah, stay tuned.
And find us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.